The first time I saw Grant Calloway in person, he was standing on a hotel ballroom stage teaching a room full of donors how to protect vulnerable people from online predators. He wore a navy suit. He smiled softly. He spoke with the calm voice of a man who knew exactly how trust worked. "Predators do not begin with money," he told the audience. "They begin with loneliness." My brother, Miles Whitaker, sat beside me with both hands locked around a folded sheet of paper. His knuckles had gone pale. He had not said a word since we entered the ballroom. On the stage behind Grant, a large blue screen read, "Digital Safety for Vulnerable Communities." I almost laughed when I saw it. Not because it was funny. Because the man explaining online exploitation to a room full of bankers, non-profit leaders, and reporters was the same man whose company had received part of the $80,000 stolen from my brother. At least that was what the evidence suggested. But evidence is not revenge. Evidence is just a blade before someone has the courage to pick it up. Grant leaned toward the microphone. "The biggest mistake families make," he continued, "is blaming the victim. Shame is what keeps these crimes hidden." Miles closed his eyes. I felt his legs shaking under the table. On my phone, the encrypted email I had received 3 nights earlier was still open. No name. No greeting. Just one sentence. "Your brother was not the first. Ask Grant about the grief group." That message had changed everything. Until then, I thought my brother had been tricked by a woman online. Fake woman. Fake emergency. Fake love story. But that email told me something worse. Miles had not been randomly chosen. He had been selected, studied, prepared. And if the message was true, the scam had not started on a dating app. It had started months earlier in a grief support group, while my brother was still mourning our mother. Grant paused on stage and looked over the audience. For half a second, his eyes landed on Miles, then on me. His smile did not disappear, but it changed, just enough. That was when I knew he recognized my brother. And that was when I knew the anonymous email was real. The moderator smiled and said, "We have time for one audience question." Miles looked at me. His voice was barely above a whisper. "I can't do this." I touched the folder in front of him. Inside were bank records, fake charity documents, dating app messages, video call screenshots, company filings, and one printed copy of the anonymous email. "You don't have to destroy him," I whispered. "You only have to ask the first question." Miles stood slowly. Every chair around us seemed to creak at once. A volunteer brought him the microphone. Grant's face stayed calm, but his right hand tightened around the edge of the podium. My brother lifted the microphone. His voice shook when he spoke. "My name is Miles Whitaker," he said. "And I have a question for Mr. Calloway." The ballroom went quiet. Grant gave a polite smile. "Of course." Miles unfolded the paper in his hand. Then he asked the question that made Grant's entire life split open in front of everyone. "How many people from my grief support group did you send to Evelyn Ross?" Grant stopped breathing. And that was where the story really began. 3 weeks earlier, I did not know the name Grant Calloway. I did not know Evelyn Ross was fake. I did not know my brother had sold his motorcycle, emptied his savings, and borrowed against his future for a woman who had never existed. All I knew was that one rainy night, Miles showed up at my apartment holding a grocery bag full of bank statements. His coat was soaked. His face was gray. And the first thing he said was, "Nora, I think I did something stupid. My name is Nora Whitaker. I work in cybersecurity. That does not mean I sit in dark rooms chasing hackers through glowing green code. Most of my job is less dramatic than people think. I investigate patterns. I review logs. I study behavior. I find the one tiny detail someone forgot to erase. I do not trust perfect stories. I do not trust clean emergencies. And I definitely do not trust a stranger who falls in love with my brother in 3 weeks, calls him her miracle in 5, and asks him for money in 6. But by the time Miles finally told me the truth, he had already sent her $80,000. $80,000. Not in one payment. That would have been too obvious. She had taken it in pieces. Passport problem. A frozen charity account. Hospital clearance fee. Customs bond. Travel emergency. Final release payment. Every request came wrapped in tenderness. Every emergency came after intimacy. Every crisis arrived right when Miles was ready to question something. That was not romance. That was choreography. Miles sat at my kitchen table while rain hit the windows. He looked like he had aged 10 years on the drive over. He pushed his phone toward me with shaking hands. The last message from Evelyn Ross was still open. My sweet Miles, please don't be angry. The airport authorities are holding my passport because the foundation account is under review. I only need one final payment to clear the travel bond. I hate asking you. You are the only person I trust. Under was a heart emoji. Then a crying face. Then a picture of a woman sitting near an airport window, one hand covering part of her face. She was beautiful. Soft brown eyes. Dark hair. A small scar near her chin. The kind of face people believe because it looks like it has suffered quietly. Miles looked at me like a child waiting for punishment. I know what you're thinking, he said. No, I said. You don't. You think I'm an idiot. For 1 second, my anger almost answered before I did. Because yes, a small cruel part of me wanted to say, how could you not see this? But anger is dangerous when someone is already bleeding. So I swallowed it. No, I said. I think someone hunted you. That broke him worse than blame would have. He lowered his head onto his arms and cried. Miles had always been soft-hearted. That was his gift and his weakness. When we were children, he rescued wounded birds, gave away lunch money, and believed every apology if it came with wet eyes. I used to tease him for it. One day, I would tell him, somebody is going to sell you air in a bottle, and you'll ask if they need help carrying it. He always smiled. You think everybody is dangerous, Nora. Maybe he was right. Maybe I did. But that night, sitting across from him, I wished he had thought just a little more like me. I made tea he did not drink. Then I opened my laptop. Send me everything, I said. He wiped his face. What do you mean everything? Every message, every photo, every email, every receipt, every phone number, every username, every voice note, every screenshot, everything. His expression changed. Nora, can you get it back? That was the dangerous question. 'Cause I wanted to say yes. I wanted to give him certainty the way Evelyn had given him lies. But I knew better. Maybe not all of it, I said. But I can find the thread. What thread? The one she forgot to cut. For the next 4 hours, my apartment became a war room. Miles forwarded messages while I sorted them into folders. Photos in one folder. Emails in another. Payment receipts. Dating app screenshots. Chat exports. Voice notes. Fake foundation documents. Bank transfer confirmations. Evelyn had not asked for money immediately. That was part of the trap. First she listened. She asked about our mother. About Miles's work. About the house he wanted to buy one day. About whether he ever got tired of being strong for everyone else. That was the part that made me hate her most. Or whoever was pretending to be her. She did not just steal his money. She stole his loneliness first. At 2:16 a.m. I found the first crack. It was a photo. Evelyn had sent Miles a picture of herself standing in front of a hospital sign. The sign was blurred in the background, but not enough. I zoomed in, adjusted the contrast, sharpened the image slightly. 3 letters became visible. They were not Portuguese. But Evelyn had told Miles she was in Lisbon. I checked the image metadata. Most of it had been stripped, which meant someone knew enough to remove location data before sending it. But not everything was gone. There was a software tag left behind from a batch image editor. The same tag appeared on 8 of the photos. That meant the images had likely been processed together. At 3:04 a.m. I found the second crack. One of Evelyn's foundation documents had a footer. Tiny gray text at the bottom. almost invisible. Template generated by Northbridge Admin Suite. A real charity would not leave that on an official emergency document. A scammer using cheap templates might. I searched the phrase across the files Miles sent me. It appeared twice. Once in Evelyn's foundation authorization letter. Once in a payment confirmation from something called the Ross Global Relief Fund. Same footer. Same formatting mistake. Same fake ecosystem. Miles had fallen asleep on my couch by then, still wearing his damp sweater. His phone was on the table beside him. Every few minutes the screen lit up. Evelyn, are you awake, my love? Please don't abandon me now. They are saying I may be detained if I cannot clear this. Miles, please. I'm scared. I stared at the messages and felt something inside me go cold. Not hot. Cold. Hot anger makes you loud. Cold anger makes you careful. By sunrise I had a map. Not the whole map. But enough to know Evelyn Ross was not one person. The dating app account had been created using an email address connected to a disposable domain. The domain had been used in several other romance scam complaints online, but always under different names. Evelyn Ross, Claire Benton, Maya Pierce, Isabel Hart. Different women. Same emotional pattern. Same type of crisis. Same repeated phrases. One line appeared in several public complaints. You are the only person I trust. That was not love. That was a script. At 7:30, Miles woke up and found me still at the laptop. Did you sleep? He asked. No. You should. So should you. But here we are. He sat up slowly. Did you find anything? I turned the laptop toward him. I did not show him everything at once. When someone has been manipulated, truth can feel like another attack if you throw it too hard. So I started simple. The woman in the photos is probably real, I said. But she is not Evelyn. His face tightened. What does that mean? It means the scammer is using someone else's pictures. He looked down. I clicked to another screen. The charity is fake. The documents are fake. The flight story is fake. His jaw moved but no words came out. Then I showed him the repeated phrase. You are the only person I trust. The same line in another victim's complaint. Then another. Then another. Miles stood so fast the chair scraped backward. I don't want to see this. I know. I said I don't want to see it. His voice cracked. Stop. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then he whispered. I told her things. That hurt more than the money. 'Cause I knew what he meant. He had not just sent cash. He had sent grief. Family stories. Dreams. Private pieces of himself he only gave away because he thought someone was holding them gently. Closed the laptop halfway. Miles, shame is how they keep you quiet. He laughed once, bitterly. Too late. No. Not too late. She's gone, Nora. Maybe Evelyn is gone, I said. But the person behind Evelyn still wants money. His phone lit up again. Another message. Final deadline. Please respond. I looked at it. Then I looked at him. We're going to answer. Miles stared at me. What? We are not sending money. But we're going to answer. No. Can't. I'm done. You don't have to write it. I will. That's illegal, isn't it? Not if you give me permission to help you respond. We are not breaking into anything. We are not hacking anyone. We are documenting what they choose to send. That was the line. People hear cybersecurity and think revenge means hacking back. Does not. The smartest revenge is not breaking rules. It is making the liar step onto a clean floor with muddy shoes. Type carefully. Evelyn, I'm sorry. Fell asleep. I'm trying to figure something out. I may be able to help, but I need proof this final payment clears everything. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. The scammer was awake. Course they were. My sweet Miles, thank God. I was crying all night. Yes, I can send proof. The officer gave me a release code. Once payment is made, I can board. I wrote back. Send the release code and the exact receiving details again. My bank asked questions last time. 3 minutes passed. Then came a document. New one. Fresh mistake. Different file name style. Same template footer. But this time, the document contained a reference number. At the top of the fake release form was a code. RG47MB 219. RG likely meant Ross Global. MB likely meant Miles Whitaker. The rest could have been a case number, batch number, or operator tag. I searched the previous documents. Another code appeared on an older invoice. RG31, MB104. Same structure. That meant Miles was being tracked internally. He was not a lover. He was a file. That was when my plan changed. Until then, I had been thinking like a sister. Find the scammer. Save what money we could. Help Miles report everything. But the codes made me think like an investigator. If Miles had a case number, then there were other cases. If there were other cases, there was an operation. If there was an operation, someone was collecting, sorting, managing, and moving money. And operations make mistakes. People make mistakes when they believe the victim is already conquered. So I let them believe it. Over the next 2 days, Miles stayed with me. He called in sick from work, then felt guilty about calling in sick, then apologized for using my couch, then apologized again for apologizing too much. That was Miles. Even broken, he worried about taking up space. Evelyn messaged constantly. Sometimes tender. Sometimes panicked. Sometimes disappointed. When I delayed, she became fragile. When I asked questions, she became wounded. When I suggested calling the hospital directly, she became afraid. It was manipulation in rhythm. Positive. Negative. Hope. Fear. Love. Punishment. I documented everything. Every message went into a timeline. Every document into a folder. Every payment route into a chart. Every wallet address and receiving account into a report. I contacted Miles's bank fraud department. I helped him file a police report. I submitted records to the dating apps abuse team. I opened a report with the National Cybercrime Portal. Then I reached out quietly to a former colleague named Priya Desai. Priya worked in financial fraud analytics. She was brilliant, impatient, and allergic to stupidity. She called me after looking at the first batch. Your brother is not the only one. I know, I said. No, Nora. I mean not even close. She sent me 3 complaint summaries with names redacted. Different victims. Same fake charity. Same document templates. Same transfer pattern. One had lost 22,000. One had lost 61,000. One had lost 140,000. The largest payment had gone through a shell consulting company called Larkmere Advisory. That name appeared in one of Miles's receipts too. Larkmere Advisory. Clean little company name. The kind that sounded boring enough to hide behind. Priya's voice lowered. This is organized. And whoever receives the money is domestic. That made me sit up. Domestic? Yes. At least one account. Your brother's last large wire went to a business account registered in-state. Can we identify who owns it? Not fully without law enforcement or bank action. But I found something else. What? Larkmere has a website. I opened it while she spoke. White background. Generic business language. Strategy. Compliance. International facilitation. No real staff photos. No proper office address beyond a rented suite. Then I reached the contact page. And there it was. Administrative Director. Grant Calloway. I stared at the name. It meant nothing to me. But behind me Miles made a sound. Turned. What? He stood slowly. Grant. You know him. He rubbed both hands over his face. He was at the grief support group. The room seemed to tilt. What grief support group? The one I went to after Mom died. I looked back at the screen. Grant Calloway. Administrative Director. Larkmere Advisory. Miles's voice became very quiet. He used to talk to me after meetings. Something ugly crawled up my spine. When? Last year. For maybe 2 months. He said he lost his wife. closed my eyes. There it was. The thread. Not online. Not random. Personal. Miles had not been picked from a dating app by chance. He had been profiled before Evelyn ever messaged him. Grant had met him in person. Learned about our mother. Learned he was lonely. Learned he was kind. Maybe even learned he had savings. Then months later, Evelyn appeared with exactly the kind of sadness Miles would understand. Called Priya back. Find anything public on Grant Calloway. She exhaled. I already did. Former non-profit operations manager. Left after financial irregularities, no charges. 3 consulting entities. 1 inactive. 1 newly formed. 1 tied to Larkmere. Send me everything. Miles sat down hard. I told him about Mom. I walked over and crouched in front of him. This is not your fault. I told him I was saving for a house. Miles. I told him everything. His voice broke. He sat there with me after group and let me talk about her. Then he sent her. That was the moment the revenge became personal. Before I wanted to expose a scammer. Now I wanted Grant Calloway to understand the difference between finding a victim and choosing the wrong family. But wanting revenge and building revenge are not the same thing. The first is emotion. The second is architecture. I spent the next week building the architecture. I could not hack Grant. I could not break into Larkmere. I could not invent evidence. But I could make the evidence he had already created line up in a way nobody could ignore. So I built the case. Timeline 1. Miles meets Grant at grief support. Timeline 2. Evelyn contacts Miles. Timeline 3. Emotional escalation. Timeline 4. Payments. Timeline 5. Larkmere's receiving accounts. Timeline 6. Fake documents. Timeline 7. Repeated scam language across other victims. Timeline 8. Grant's non-profit history. Timeline 9. Current company connections. Every line had support. Screenshots, receipts, URLs, registration records, bank references, police report numbers, dating app exports, communication logs. Meanwhile, Evelyn kept messaging. We kept delaying. Then the scammer made the mistake I had been waiting for. She asked for a video call. Not because she wanted to prove herself. Because Miles had stopped sounding obedient. My sweet Miles, I can see you are losing faith in me. Let us speak face to face. I cannot bear this distance. Miles read the message and looked terrified. I can't. You don't have to. What do you mean? I looked at the message again. A video call meant one of 3 things. Either they had a woman ready to perform Evelyn. Or they planned to play a manipulated pre-recorded clip. Or they would create an excuse at the last second and use his disappointment to force payment. Any option could reveal something. We accept, I said. The call was scheduled for 8 that night. At 7:30, Miles started pacing. At 7:45, he said he was going to be sick. At 7:52, I told him he could leave the room if he wanted. At 7:58, he sat beside me anyway. The call came through a video chat link Evelyn sent. I had already prepared a clean device, screen recording with Miles's consent, and a separate note-taking screen. Nothing invasive. Nothing illegal. Just observation. The screen connected. For 2 seconds there was only black. Then Evelyn appeared. Same woman from the photos. Or close enough to make Miles inhale sharply. But I saw it immediately. The lighting was strange. Too smooth. Her mouth lagged just slightly behind the audio. The video quality shifted when she turned her head, but the background did not move naturally with her. It was not a normal live call. It was manipulated. Maybe a deepfake overlay. Maybe pre-recorded material controlled by someone else. Either way, it was not clean. Miles, she said. His hand clenched beside mine. I muted our microphone. Look at me, I whispered. He looked at me, eyes wet. That is not her. He nodded once. Barely. I unmuted. Miles spoke, and his voice shook perfectly because he was not acting. Evelyn, I need to know where you are. She smiled sadly. At the airport office. They are watching me. I cannot say much. Turn the camera around. The smile froze for half a beat. I cannot, my love. Show me the officer. I cannot. Show me today's date. The video glitched. Just slightly. Then her expression changed from sorrow to disappointment. You promised you trusted me. There it was. The punishment phase. Miles closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. For the first time since he entered my apartment, shame was not the only thing on his face. There was anger. Quiet, wounded anger. I trusted you, he said. That was the problem. The call ended. Not from our side. From theirs. 30 seconds later, Evelyn sent a message. You have broken my heart. Then another. I hope you are happy when they detain me. Then another. If you do not send the payment tonight, do not ever call me your love again. Miles stared at the screen. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. But it was the first sound he had made in a week that did not seem like it was leaving a wound. She really thinks I'm still chasing her. No, I said. She thinks you're still alone. He looked at me. Then let's prove I'm not. That became the turning point. The next morning Priya called. I found something. Her tone was different. Harper. Grant Calloway is speaking at a non-profit technology fundraiser Friday night. I leaned back slowly. What kind of fundraiser? Digital safety for vulnerable communities. For a moment I thought I misheard her. Then I started laughing. Not because it was funny. Because the arrogance was almost artistic. Grant Calloway, the man tied to a romance scam operation targeting grieving people, was going to stand in front of donors and talk about digital safety. Priya sent me the event page. There he was. Panel speaker. Topic. Protecting at-risk adults from online exploitation. Miles read it over my shoulder. His face changed. He's going to talk about people like me. Yes. And pretend he helps them. Yes. He sat back. What are we going to do? I looked at the page. Reporters would be there. Donors. Non-profit leaders. Financial sponsors. A city council representative. Representatives from 2 banks. And Grant would be on stage. Public setting. Polished room. A man standing inside a story he thought he controlled. I knew that shape. I had seen it in boardrooms after breaches. I had seen executives smile under soft lights while the truth waited in a folder. This was not just an opportunity. It was a stage. But I had to be careful. Accusing someone in public without verified support could destroy the case and expose Miles to more pain. So we did it properly. Priya helped connect us to Detective Aaron Bell, a cybercrime investigator she trusted. I gave him the report. Not theories. Evidence. He did not promise anything. Investigators rarely do. But he read enough to stop sounding casual. This is organized, he said. Yes. And your brother is willing to make a statement. Miles swallowed. Then nodded. Yes. Detective Bell looked at him, not me. Are you sure? These cases are emotionally difficult. Miles's voice was quiet. She used my mother's death to rob me. The detective paused. Then he said, We'll take the statement today. That afternoon, Miles told the whole story again. This time into an official record. It hurt him. Could see that. Every detail reopened something. The first compliment. First call. The first payment. The first lie he told me. The moment he sold the motorcycle. The moment he realized the woman who said she loved him had never existed. But with every sentence he sat straighter. Shame hates witnesses. Truth survives them. 2 days before the fundraiser, the anonymous email arrived. I was alone in my apartment, building the final version of the evidence packet, when my inbox pinged. The sender was hidden behind a privacy relay. The subject line was blank. The message had only one sentence. Your brother was not the first. Ask Grant about the grief group. Attached was a small screenshot. Spreadsheet. Most of it was cropped, but 4 columns were visible. Initials. Rs. Status. One row read. MB, Grief Group. Active House Fund, High Empathy. I stopped breathing. B. Miles Whitaker. House Fund. High Empathy. They had written his goodness down like a weakness. Called Priya. Then Detective Bell. And Miles. When Miles read the screenshot, he did not say anything for almost a full minute. Then he whispered, "High empathy." I wanted to take the phone away. I wanted to protect him from that phrase. But he kept looking at it. Finally he said, "They knew." Yes. They knew exactly what they were doing. Yes. His face hardened. Then I want to go Friday. By Friday night, Detective Bell could not tell us much. But he told us one thing. Do not confront him physically. Do not threaten him. Do not interfere with any law enforcement action. Understood. Miles asked, "Can we still attend?" The detective looked at him. "It's a public event." That was not permission. But it was not a no. So we went. The fundraiser was held in a hotel ballroom with white tablecloths, blue uplighting, and a large screen behind the stage. Grant Calloway stood near the front, shaking hands. He was handsome in the forgettable way polished men often are. Salt and pepper hair. Smile. Expensive watch. Warm eye contact designed to make people feel chosen for exactly 3 seconds. Miles saw him and stopped walking. I touched his arm. "You okay?" "No. We can leave." He shook his head. "No. I need to see his face when he realizes." Grant noticed us then. For half a second nothing happened. Then recognition entered his eyes. Not panic. Not yet. Calculation. He smiled and walked over. "Miles," he said warmly. "My goodness. It's been a long time." His voice made my skin crawl. Miles did not shake his hand. "Grant." Grant's eyes flicked to me. "And you must be Nora Whitaker. Sister." "Yes." "How nice. Are you both involved in digital safety work?" "In a way," I said. Grant held my gaze a little too long. Men like him always test the room before they decide which mask to wear. "Well," he said, "I hope tonight is meaningful for you." "It will be," I said. His smile thinned. Then someone called his name and he walked away. Miles exhaled. "He knows." "Yes." "Is that bad?" "It means he'll be careful." I looked toward the ballroom entrance. 2 men in plain suits had just walked in. Detective Bell was one of them. Grant did not see them. Not yet. The panel began 20 minutes later. A banker spoke first. Then a non-profit director. Then a psychologist who talked about loneliness and online manipulation with enough compassion that Miles had to look down at his hands. Then Grant walked onto the stage. The applause was polite. He smiled like a man stepping into warm water. "Online exploitation," he began, "is not simply a technical problem. It is an emotional one." I felt Miles stiffen beside me. Grant continued. "Predators study vulnerability. They learn grief, isolation, financial stress, and trust patterns. Then they weaponize intimacy." The room listened. People nodded. He was good. That was the sickest part. He understood the crime perfectly. Because he was describing his own method. Grant leaned toward the microphone. "The biggest mistake families make is blaming the victim. Shame is what keeps these crimes hidden." Miles closed his eyes. I touched the folder in front of him. "You don't have to destroy him," I whispered. "You only have to ask the first question." Then the moderator smiled. "We have time for one audience question before moving to donor acknowledgements." Detective Bell stood near the back of the room and nodded once. Miles looked at me. "I can't do this." "You can." "What if my voice shakes?" "Then let it shake." He stood slowly. A volunteer brought him the microphone. Grant's face stayed calm. But his right hand tightened around the podium. "My name is Miles Whitaker," my brother said. "And I have a question for Mr. Calloway." The room went quiet. Grant gave a polite smile. "Of course." Miles unfolded the paper in his hand. How many people from my grief support group did you send to Evelyn Ross? The silence that followed did not feel empty. It felt loaded. Grant leaned back slightly. I'm sorry, he said carefully. I don't understand the question. Miles looked at the paper again. Larkmere Advisory received one of my payments. You're listed as administrative director. You also attended the grief support group I went to after my mother died. You spoke to me after meetings. You asked about my family. You knew I was saving for a house. The ballroom became so quiet I could hear silverware settle on a plate. Grant's face hardened. I would be very careful making public accusations. That was the villain's first move. Not denial. Warning. Miles's voice shook, but he kept going. I am careful. My sister taught me. People looked at me now. Understood. Not dramatically. Not quickly. Just enough. My name is Nora Whitaker, I said. I work in cybersecurity. My brother has filed a police report. The evidence has been submitted to investigators, his bank, the dating platform, and relevant fraud reporting agencies. Grant's jaw tightened. We are not here to try this case in a ballroom, I continued. But since Mr. Calloway is speaking tonight about protecting vulnerable people, my brother deserves to ask why a company tied to him received money from a scam that began after Mr. Calloway personally met him in a grief support setting. A reporter near the side lifted her phone. Then another. Grant stood. This is outrageous. Detective Bell began walking down the aisle. Grant saw him then. For the first time, real fear entered his face. Not much, but enough. Detective Bell reached the stage stairs and spoke quietly to him. We could not hear every word. But we saw Grant's expression. The mask was gone. The ballroom erupted into whispers. The moderator looked like she wanted to disappear behind the podium. The banker on the panel stared down at his notes. Grant stepped away from the microphone. Detective Bell did not arrest him on stage. Real life is not always that cinematic. But sometimes consequences do not need handcuffs to begin. Sometimes they begin with a man realizing that the room he came to impress is now watching him like evidence. Grant left with Detective Bell and another investigator through the side door. No announcement, no speech, no apology. Just a clean exit through a door near the service hallway while every phone in the room followed him. Miles sat down slowly. His hands were shaking so badly I took the folder from him. You did it, I whispered. He stared at the empty stage. No, he said. We started it. He was right. The next few weeks were brutal. That is the part people do not understand about revenge. The public moment feels like an ending. But real justice moves through paperwork. Banks, investigators, statements, frozen accounts, follow-up interviews, insurance forms, platform reports. More victims coming forward. More shame. More anger. More nights when Miles woke up thinking Evelyn had messaged him again. Grant's name appeared in a local article 2 days after the fundraiser. Not with every detail, but enough. Consultant under investigation after fraud allegations raised at digital safety event. Then another article followed. Then a non-profit released a statement saying Grant had been removed from all advisory work pending investigation. Then Larkmere's website went offline. Then Priya called. They froze one of the receiving accounts. Sat up. How much? I don't know. But some funds may be recoverable. When I told Miles, he did not celebrate. He just closed his eyes. Some, he said. Some is not nothing. I know. But I understood. Even if every dollar came back, something had been taken that money could not replace. Trust. The part of him that believed kindness was usually safe. 3 months later, Miles got back $38,000. Not all of it. Not even half. But enough to breathe. Other victims came forward after the article. A woman named Teresa had lost her retirement savings after meeting Grant through a charity volunteer program. A widower named Alan had sent money after attending a church financial planning seminar where Grant had spoken. Another victim had never met Grant directly, but had received the same Evelyn-style messages under a different name. The investigation widened. Grant tried to deny everything at first. Then he claimed Larkmere had been misused by contractors. Then he claimed he had no knowledge of the romance profiles. Then investigators found the full spreadsheet. Initials, ERS, status, victims reduced to categories: grief, divorce, medical debt, widow, lonely, savings likely. And there was Miles's row. MB, grief group, active house fund, high empathy. High empathy. That phrase nearly broke me. Because they had written his goodness down like a weakness. But the spreadsheet also answered the question that had bothered me since the anonymous email arrived. Who had sent it? The answer came through Detective Bell. The sender was a woman named Hannah Voss. She had worked as a temporary administrative assistant for Larkmere for 6 weeks. At first, she thought the company handled international donation logistics. Then she saw the spreadsheet. Then she saw the victim notes. Then she saw Grant's name attached to the grief support source list. She copied one screenshot before she quit. She did not know what to do with it. Then she saw Miles's name in a payment note and found a contact reference buried in an old intake file. She sent the email anonymously because she was afraid. Afraid of Grant. Afraid of being blamed. Afraid that maybe she had helped too much before she understood what she was helping. That was the rebound. The message that opened the mystery had come from someone inside the machine. Not a hero. Not a mastermind. Just a woman who saw one line too many and finally refused to stay silent. Her screenshot helped connect the grief group to the scam. It helped investigators prove Miles had not just wandered into Evelyn's messages by accident. He had been selected. And that changed everything. 6 months after the fundraiser, Grant Calloway pleaded guilty to charges connected to fraud, identity misuse, and money laundering activity. Not every victim got full repayment. Not every fake profile was traced to a real operator. Not every wound closed neatly. But Grant lost the thing he had used as a weapon. His respectable name. His charity circles. His donor rooms. His polished panels. His ability to stand on stage and describe predators like he was not one. Miles bought another motorcycle the following spring. A little scratched. Too loud. He sent me a picture of it with one message. Don't start. I replied. Does it come with common sense? Or is that sold separately? He sent back a laughing emoji. That was how I knew he was healing. Not fully. Not perfectly. But honestly. One evening, almost a year after he first came to my apartment in the rain, Miles invited me to dinner. He paid. He insisted. He ordered too much food and complained about the prices like our father used to. Near the end of the meal, he became quiet. I still miss her sometimes, he said. I knew who he meant. Not Evelyn exactly. The idea of her. The version of love she had pretended to offer. That makes sense, I said. He looked embarrassed. It's pathetic. No. It's grief. For someone who wasn't real. For what you felt when you thought she was. He sat with that. Then he nodded. I think that's the part people don't understand. What? You don't just lose money. You lose the future you imagined while sending it. That line stayed with me. 'Cause it was true. Scams are not only financial crimes. They are thefts of imagined futures. A wedding that was never coming. A rescue that was never needed. A flight that was never booked. A woman at an airport who never existed. A life Miles had pictured so clearly that losing it felt like another death. That was why I never mocked him. That was why I corrected anyone who tried. And yes, some people tried. There is always someone who hears a story like his and says, how could anyone fall for that? Those people think intelligence protects them. Does not always. Loneliness can open a door intelligence forgot to lock. Grief can make a stranger's voice sound like shelter. Hope can turn obvious questions into things you are afraid to ask. Miles was not robbed because he was foolish. He was robbed because someone studied exactly where he was human. That is why Grant chose the wrong family. Not because I was a genius. Not because I broke into some hidden server. Not because revenge came wrapped in dramatic music and perfect timing. He chose wrong because he believed shame would keep Miles silent. He believed kindness meant weakness. He believed a fake woman named Evelyn could take $80,000 and disappear into a maze of documents, shell companies, and emotional wreckage. He did not expect Miles to knock on my door. He did not expect me to read every line. He did not expect the template footer. He did not expect the repeated phrase. He did not expect the case codes. He did not expect Larkmere. He did not expect Hannah's anonymous email. He did not expect the grief group connection. He did not expect my brother to stand in a ballroom full of donors and ask one clean question. How many people from my grief support group did you send to Evelyn Ross? That question did what anger could not. It made the lie answerable. And once a lie becomes answerable, it starts to rot. People think revenge is about making someone suffer. Sometimes it is simpler than that. Sometimes revenge is making the person who hid behind confusion stand in front of clarity. Sometimes it is taking the shame they handed you and returning it with documentation. Sometimes it is refusing to let the villain remain the expert in the room. The night Miles came to my apartment, he thought he had lost everything because he trusted the wrong person. But he had one thing Evelyn never counted on. He had a sister who trusted patterns more than promises. And I had one thing Grant never respected. A brother whose broken heart was still brave enough to tell the truth. So no, we did not recover all the money. No, the damage did not vanish. No, Miles did not become the same man he was before. But neither did Grant. And if there is one thing I learned from watching my brother rebuild, it is this. The cruelest people do not always fear anger. They expect anger. They prepare for it. What they fear is evidence. Quiet evidence. Patient evidence. Evidence that does not shake, does not beg, does not scream, and does not forget. Because money can move. Profiles can vanish. Fake names can change. But patterns remain. And when you know how to read them, even a woman who never existed can lead you straight to the man who created her. Thank you for watching. If this story pulled you in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.